Have you ever walked into a Home Depot or Lowe's, saw a beautiful, lush plant, and thought, this is the one that's going to make my living room look like a magazine, only to have it looking like a dried-up stick 2 weeks later? I've been there. In fact, I've spent more money than I'd like to admit on what I call showcase plants, those divas that need the perfect humidity and a specific prayer whispered to them every morning just to stay green. It's frustrating, and it makes you feel like you just weren't born with a green thumb. But here's the truth. It's not your fault. Most of the time, we're sold plants that belong in a greenhouse, not in a busy American home where the AC is running or the heater is drying out the air. Today, I want to change that for you. I'm going to show you a list of plants that actually thrive on neglect. I'm talking about the survivors that don't mind if you forget them for a week or 3. We're going to cover the indestructible snake plant and the famous ZZ plant, and I'll even tell you about a common mistake people make with easy plants that actually ends up killing them faster than neglect ever could. Let's get right into our first survivor, the snake plant, also known as Sansevieria. If there were a hall of fame for plants that refuse to die, this would be at the very top. I remember when I first started gardening, I bought a gorgeous snake plant for my first apartment. I was so busy with work that I completely forgot about it for an entire month. I didn't even put it near a window. When I finally remembered, I expected to find a shriveled mess. Instead, it looked exactly the same as the day I bought it. That's because these plants are built like tanks. They have these thick, sword-like leaves that store water, which means they are incredibly drought-tolerant. What nobody tells you at the store is that the biggest danger to a snake plant isn't you forgetting to water it, it's you caring too much. I want to save you money and frustration right now. Do not water this plant every week. In a typical home environment, especially if you have it in a darker corner, you might only need to water it once every 3 or 4 weeks. A simple test I always use is the weight test. Pick up the pot. If it feels light as a feather, give it a drink. If it still has some weight to it, walk away. Your plant will thank you for the silence. They can handle low light, but if you want them to actually grow and maybe even surprise you with a shoot, put them near a window with indirect light. Just avoid that harsh, direct afternoon sun that can scorch the leaves. If you live in a place with cold winters, like USDA Zone 5 or 6, keep them away from drafty windows during the winter months. They don't like the shiver any more than we do. And here is a quick protector tip for my fellow pet owners. Snake plants are mildly toxic if chewed on, so keep them up on a plant stand or a high shelf if you have a curious cat or dog. It's a simple adjustment that keeps everyone safe. People often ask me, how do I know if I'm actually killing it? The most common sign is the base of the leaves turning mushy and yellow. That's almost always a sign of overwatering. If that happens, stop watering immediately and let the soil dry out completely. It's a resilient plant, and often it can bounce back if you just give it some space. You know why this happens even when you think you're watering correctly? I'll show you the hidden reason in the next part. The hidden reason why so many people accidentally kill their indestructible plants, even when they think they are being careful, usually comes down to the drainage. I see this all the time. You find a beautiful ceramic pot in a boutique or a home goods store, and it looks perfect for your decor, but it doesn't have a hole at the bottom. When you water that plant, the liquid has nowhere to go. It sits at the bottom, turning the soil into a swamp, and eventually the roots just rot away. It's a silent killer because the top of the soil might look dry, but the bottom is a drowning hazard. Always make sure your pots have drainage holes, or keep the plant in its plastic nursery pot inside the decorative one. Now, let's talk about the ZZ plant, Zamioculcas zamiifolia. If the snake plant is the king of neglect, the ZZ is the queen. This plant is a favorite for office buildings and malls because it can handle almost total darkness and very dry air. I have one in a hallway that barely sees any natural light, and it's been thriving for 3 years. The ZZ plant has these beautiful waxy green leaves that look like they're made of plastic, but they are very real. Those leaves, along with the potato-like bulbs under the soil called rhizomes, store water for long periods. I want to shorten your path so you don't suffer for nothing. The ZZ plant is the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it choice for a busy American professional. If you travel for work or just have a hectic schedule, this is your best friend. In a standard 6-inch pot, you might only need to water it once a month. I've gone 6 weeks without watering mine during a particularly busy season, and it didn't drop a single leaf. It's a great validator for anyone who feels like they have a black thumb. If you can keep a ZZ plant alive, you are officially a gardener. A common mistake I see is people placing the ZZ plant in direct, scorching sun on a porch or a south-facing window. This will turn those dark green leaves a sickly yellow-brown. They prefer bright, indirect light, which is just a fancy way of saying a room with a window, but not right in the sun's path. If your leaves are falling off, it's usually because you're watering too much. If the tips are turning brown and crispy, the air might be a bit too dry, which can happen in the winter when the heater is blasting. A quick fix? Just move it a few feet away from the heating vent. Like the snake plant, the ZZ is also toxic to pets, so keep it out of reach of your furry friends. Moving on to a classic that everyone recognizes, the pothos, often called devil's ivy. It gets that name because it's nearly impossible to kill. This is the plant you see trailing down from bookshelves or kitchen cabinets in almost every American home. What I love about pothos is that it actually talks to you. Most plants just die quietly, but the pothos is dramatic. When it's thirsty, the leaves will go limp and look completely sad. You'll think, oh no, I've killed it. But then you give it a good soak in the sink, let the water drain out, and within a few hours it perks right back up like nothing happened. It's incredibly rewarding for beginners because it grows fast. You can actually see the progress month to month. I remember my first pothos. I started with a small 4-inch pot on my desk, and within a year, the vines were long enough to drape over my computer monitor. It made my workspace feel so much more alive. You can find these at any garden center for a few dollars, making it a very budget-friendly way to bring nature indoors. Just watch out for the showcase varieties, like the Marble Queen or Enjoy. They are beautiful, but they need a little more light to keep their white patterns. If you put a variegated pothos in a dark corner, it will eventually turn solid green to survive. And heads up, there's a simple mistake that makes this plant stop blooming or growing new leaves. I'll show you how to avoid it in just a moment. The mistake that stops a pothos and many other vining plants right in its tracks is letting it stay root-bound for years or never giving it a haircut. I know it feels scary to cut something you've worked so hard to grow, but pruning is like a reset button for the plant's energy. If your pothos has long, leggy stems with only a few leaves at the very end, it's screaming for a trim. If you snip those long vines, the plant will push out new, bushier growth from the top. Plus, you can take those cuttings, stick them in a glass of water on your kitchen windowsill, and watch new roots grow. It's the easiest way to get free plants for the rest of your house. Next on our list of survivors is the spider plant. This is an absolute staple of the American porch and hanging basket. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, your parents probably had one of these. They are famous for the little babies or spiderettes that dangle down from the mother plant. I love these because they are one of the best plants for air purification. If you're worried about the air quality in your home or apartment, the spider plant is like a natural living filter. One thing that nobody tells you at the store is that spider plants can be a bit sensitive to the chemicals in our tap water. If you notice the very tips of the long, thin leaves are turning brown, it's usually not because you're a bad gardener. It's likely the fluoride or chlorine in your city water. I used to get so frustrated seeing those brown tips until I learned a simple trick. Just fill your watering can and let it sit out on the counter overnight before using it. This allows some of those chemicals to dissipate. Or, if you have a rain barrel in your backyard, use that. It's a small adjustment that makes a huge difference in how clean the plant looks. Spider plants are also incredibly resilient when it comes to temperature. While they prefer a comfortable room temperature, they can handle a bit of a chill better than most tropical plants. This makes them great for those in-between spaces, like a mudroom or a screened-in porch, as long as the temperature doesn't drop below freezing. And here's a big plus for all the pet lovers out there. Spider plants are non-toxic to cats and dogs. In fact, some cats love to chew on the dangly leaves because they have a mild hallucinogenic effect on them, kind of like catnip. So, if you see your cat eyeing your plant, don't panic, but maybe move it into a hanging basket to save the plant from being eaten. Now, let's look at the cast iron plant, Aspidistra eleator. The name says it all. This plant earned its reputation in Victorian-era England because it was one of the few things that could survive the dark, chilly, and soot-filled air of homes heated by coal. If it could survive that, it can definitely survive your hallway or a corner of your living room that doesn't get much light. It has these beautiful, dark green, leathery leaves that grow straight up from the soil. It's a slow grower, which is actually a blessing for busy people because it won't outgrow its pot or its space for a long time. I've had a cast iron plant in my guest bedroom, a room I honestly forget exists for weeks at a time, and it has never complained. It's the ultimate protector of your peace of mind. You don't have to worry about humidity, you don't have to worry about perfect light, and you certainly don't have to worry about a strict watering schedule. Just water it when the soil feels dry to the touch, maybe every 2 weeks, depending on the season. If yours is already looking a little rough or dusty, you can still save it. In the next part, I'll give you a simple rescue plan and a few more bulletproof choices to finish our garden. If your cast iron plant or any of these survivors are looking a bit dull, the rescue is often simpler than you think. Because these plants have thick or waxy leaves, they tend to collect household dust. This isn't just an aesthetic issue. A thick layer of dust actually blocks the sunlight from reaching the plant's skin, making it harder for it to breathe and create energy. Every few months, I take a damp microfiber cloth and gently wipe down the leaves. It's like taking a weight off the plant's shoulders. If you have a lot of plants, you can even put them in the shower for a quick lukewarm rinse. Just make sure they drain completely afterward. Before we wrap up, I have to mention the aloe vera. Most Americans keep one of these in the kitchen, and for good reason. Not only is it nearly impossible to kill if you give it enough light, but it's also a living first aid kit. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally burned my hand on a cookie sheet and reached for my aloe plant. You just snip off a small piece of a lower leaf and rub that cool gel right on the burn. It's nature's miracle. The key with aloe is to remember it's a succulent. It wants a lot of light, a south-facing windowsill is perfect, and it wants very little water. I've seen more aloe plants die from suffocation in wet soil than from anything else. Think of it like a desert traveler. It wants a long, deep drink and then a long period of complete dryness. If you've been following along, you might notice a pattern here. The plants we've talked about today, the snake plant, ZZ, pothos, spider plant, cast iron, and aloe, all share a common trait. They don't demand your constant attention. They are the partners, not the projects. I want to leave you with a few final lessons I've learned the hard way so you don't have to. First, always buy your plants based on the light you have, not the light you wish you had. If your apartment is dim, don't buy a sun-loving succulent just because it's cute. Stick with the ZZ or the snake plant. Second, trust your hands more than a calendar. Don't water because it's Tuesday. Water because the soil feels dry 2 inches down. What I want for you is a home that feels like a sanctuary, not a chore list. If you felt like a plant killer in the past, I hope this video helps you realize that you just hadn't found the right teammates yet. Start with just one of these, maybe a pothos or a snake plant, and watch how it responds to your home. Once you see that first new leaf unfurl, your confidence will grow, and you'll realize that gardening is more about observation than it is about following a strict set of marketing rules you see on social media. Tomorrow morning, take a quick walk through your house. Look at those empty corners or that dusty shelf. Pick one spot and decide which of these indestructibles would look best there. You don't need a greenhouse or a master's degree in botany. You just need a little patience and the right plant for your lifestyle. If you want to dive deeper into the basics, things like choosing the right soil for our US climate zones or understanding how to fix drainage issues once and for all, I've put all my testing and notes into my Garden Without Secrets guide. It's designed to keep things simple and honest, just like we talked about today. And if you're wondering what the biggest mistake is when it comes to the actual pot you choose, you really need to see what happens when the roots run out of room. I've put a video right here on the screen that explains exactly how to read your plant's light and container needs so you never have to guess again. Click that and I'll see you there. Grow with patience, grow with knowledge, grow with love. See you next time.